The old Liverpool are dead. I wanted to start the video with a statement that I think a lot of people will either be very upset about, some people will be thrilled about, and some people will also understand what I mean by that. And so I'm going to unpack that a little bit in this video, but at the same time, I think it's quite a pertinent thing to say after Virgil van Dijk has lost his Anfield unbeaten record, after Liverpool have now conceded 19 times before the other side in 24 games. And the negative stats continue. Now, you probably still think about the dead thing. I don't necessarily think that acknowledging that the older Liverpool team that Klopp built in that starting 11 and the shape and the execution is now gone. Saying that isn't the same, saying that isn't the same team is obviously a very quick logical jump to make. You can see it's clearly not the same side. But to acknowledge that something is no longer here and that actually Liverpool should be moving forward from what is now gone is probably a very healthy thing. A lot of analysis and the yardstick at the moment that's being applied to Liverpool, rightly so by the way, is still the very high bar that sits, higher than so many other Liverpool teams. In fact, you could argue any other Liverpool team of all time. And so Liverpool are being judged by that yardstick, that watermark, whatever you want to say, right? But within that lies a lot of fallacies that people are going to lay out there because here's the reality. A lot of people won't have watched the Leeds game. Not many people will have taken their Saturday night at 7:45 to tune into Liverpool at home to Leeds. A lot of people have assumed it was an easy win for Liverpool. A lot of people will have assumed that there was, just something that Liverpool were going to continue to do this season and continue to build. And to a huge extent, they did. A lot of my notes before Somerville got that really good goal, actually, and his strike was fantastic, put it really low, past Alisson really well, really early, were positive notes. And it was weird because I'm watching and Jamie Carragher is piling a lot of analysis on Liverpool, which is extremely negative. Strangely, he avoids certain people within the team that I think are worthy of criticism and piles praise on other people that I think are not worthy of that praise. So I do think that a lot of that is driven by some sort of agenda on either Jamie's side or maybe Sky's side, that they're saying, you need to say more, which is a bit more divisive, or you need to have more black and white opinions, should we say, Jamie? I don't necessarily agree with the analysis that Jamie Carragher provided for Sky. For instance, he actually really thought that Curtis Jones was doing something when he came on. He said he wanted to see someone who got their foot on it, brought it forward. I actually wanted to see the opposite in Liverpool's midfield. I wanted to see someone who got their foot on it, but started to facilitate movement. And the same as I'm always saying with Curtis Jones, when he did come on in the end, there were just too many touches. The touches went on too long. It meant that players' runs were just wasted in the end, and Liverpool's movement was just not what it needed to be. Now, there may be people out there who say that's what he needs to do. We need to appreciate those factors in Curtis Jones. But when you look at the rest of the system that's moving so quickly around him, the ball needs to be moved quickly. And that is exactly what Fabinho and Thiago were trying to facilitate all night. You could see between Robertson and Thiago, there was clearly an understanding of when he wants to get forward, when Robertson wants to get forward, Thiago is there to make that other pass, right? Because they realise that with this new system, which is meant to be more adaptable, can go from a diamond to a 4-3-3, to a 4-4-2, to a 4-2-4, to whatever you want it to be, to read it however you want to read it. That is meant to be more adaptable. It is meant to, move Liverpool forward away from that 4-3-3, the very kind of classic Klopp 4-3-3, but also make the most of the players that Liverpool have on the field. Arguably, it hasn't done that because actually Firmino didn't. I think Firmino put one pass into a forward all night. A lot of his passes were backwards to a Liverpool defender or a Liverpool midfielder. Now, arguably, Firmino's role is to get the ball, put it off and get the ball again, and maybe to have interplay with the midfield of Liverpool, bring them forward. So that might be a little simplistic, but still, maybe there should be a little more end product there. Then on the other side, there is immense pressure on Fabinho at the moment. People seem obsessed with finding a way to say that Fabinho is not the same player that he used to be, with finding a way of saying he's not at the races, he's not X, he's not one. Or I think Jamie Carragher called him a ghost tonight because, he was running one way and a player ran the other. I get it. Like, you're a defensive midfielder. You've got to get yourself in the way. But at the same time, he's not going to do that for the whole game. There are going to be times where he gets caught in transition. Modern football works in transition. Can we stop analysing like there's just fixed positions? It's frustrating. And then you've got this idea, of course, that Liverpool, not only are they in transition, they also have a number of injuries, not excusing that at all. But at the same time, Thiago comes back, puts in a very good performance as far as I'm concerned, ran and made up a lot of the deficit that Liverpool probably felt in that midfield. Then we also saw that they probably miss maybe just one more player on that far right side. Like, I'm not saying Harvey Elliott's not capable. I think he's a perfectly capable player, but you just can see, like, you're just like, God, I wish there was someone to fill that space for Liverpool, right? Because when Salah and Nunez are playing through the middle and you've got Salah making one run, Nunez making the other, you pull that back line apart, there's lots of space in there, the defenders don't know how to do it, and Meslier was declared Leeds man of the match tonight, or at least close to it, so it's another indication of what Liverpool are kind of doing here. I liked what Nunez was doing. I liked his sharper touches. I liked his crisper passes from both feet. I didn't like his reluctance to shoot on his left foot, but hey, I mean, if you're going to put in a shot, put it in from your stronger foot, right? I mean, that's what Alan Shearer often says. And then I liked Salah kind of doing that cutting inside. It's what got him the goal. His movement, again, is what got him the goal. It's what gives Liverpool that unpredictable element up front alongside Nunez making those runs in the other direction. Thiago is trying to pick it out a number of times. What I'm saying is, the end result is not there yet. But this old idea of Liverpool being dead does not mean that you get rid of the doubters to believers idea. It does not mean that you just go, well, it was good, it's over, let's just move on. Because I don't see the point in that. This Liverpool side is clearly not giving up on Klopp. They clearly haven't given up on relearning a system. And it seems to be mentally and physically exhausting to these guys to try to move things forward. I hate to say it, but Liverpool kind of looked like in a similar position to the fragility of what Arteta had, not when he first arrived, but like a little bit after that, when he was beginning to put these new principles into them, when the team were clearly exhausted from trying to enact the system that he was trying to get out there. But sticking with it, having that longevity and having the faith in him, the doubters to believers, or even just continuing to be believers, was good in that time. That it's not me saying this Liverpool team is worthy of outright praise, because a loss against Nottingham Forest, a loss against Leeds is damnable. But on the flip side of that, to damn them without clear evaluation and without saying I clearly see there are things and concepts that I actually quite like and I actually can support and I actually can follow and I think will be fruitful, would also be intellectually dishonest. Because I get it, there have been a lot of comments below where it's like, no, what you're doing is you're making excuses for FSG, you're making excuses for Klopp, you're making excuses for the players. I don't care. I'm not trying to excuse anything. I'm trying to understand why these results are happening. And the reductionist idea that this guy isn't trying enough, or FSG aren't spending enough, or Klopp is somehow cursed or making it up as he goes along, or not trying to find solutions, dumbfounds me. Because if we've learned these things over the last few years for Liverpool, for Klopp, for this Liverpool side, it's that you don't just go, okay, well, no one really cares. Andy Robertson's clearly trying out there. Salah's clearly trying out there, but there is an element of exhaustion. I think it was Nico Morales tonight on Twitter who said, this looks like 20 drunk guys running around. It's not usual Liverpool, of course, but it is looking towards the idea that Liverpool are tired at this point. Again, it's not an excuse. They shouldn't be this tired at this point in the season. But I'd imagine that there are a lot of people who are getting into this Liverpool team and going, I see a World Cup coming. I see a point where this side can train again. I see a point where there's a lot of people resting. I see this point where we get a lot of people back from injury. I see us moving forward. I'll pick out Joe Gomez for particular praise this evening because I actually heard Jamie Carragher damn him. He said he was all over the place. Joe Gomez in possession is a fantastic player. He's fantastic at distribution. His touch is brilliant, brings the ball down. And I'm sure there are people who are nervous around him. And I'm sure there are times where he dives in. He dived in a couple of times and gave away silly free kicks. Maybe when Van Dijk had it under control or was sort of backing off and just going to let that player run themselves into a corner. And I get it. Some people will blame Joe Gomez for the goal. Some people will blame Alisson in a wild way, like that guy pointing at his own chest and putting his hand up. Could you want a better teammate than that? Could you want a guy who... Could you want a goalkeeper anymore who goes, don't think about that, it's me. I've met Alisson and the energy that he gives off is this kind of incredibly calm, intellectual, thought-through aura. And in that moment, that's what you want behind you. You want a goalkeeper that is smart enough to know how to manage the intellect and mind of someone like Joe Gomez, who seems quite fragile. When I say fragile, I don't mean physically. I mean, it's the possibility you have a Napoli game, or it's the possibility you have a Man City game, or the possibility you have whatever game it is that you want to put at Joe Gomez's feet. So this isn't a denial that there are issues. It's just saying that I don't think that those issues need to be so poorly and lazily diagnosed that people go, terminal. Because that's what the analysis seems to be. And that's what, weirdly, it always seems to go to. There are problems, and therefore those problems are terminal, and therefore X must go, Y must go, we must spend money here, we must do this now, this guy's untrainable, this guy isn't going to play for Liverpool ever again. Every issue becomes an issue of terminality. He needs to go, or he needs to not play for the team for a while, or he needs X alongside him, or it must be Jude Bellingham that solved these problems. It can only be Jude Bellingham, and if Jude Bellingham isn't the solution, then I don't want to hear one, is what a lot of people are saying. So, yes, Leeds played Liverpool really well, in the same way as Forest played Liverpool really well. Liverpool have huge issues with the way that they set up in terms of how they play it for a full 90 minutes. It looks good early on. The Liverpool side actually looked annoyed they conceded so early, because it was kind of like, hey, we were actually snapping it around tonight. You could see, I was watching, they were enjoying that until that goal. So I'm sure there are plenty of people who've got their issues. I'm sure that someone's got an issue with Thiago, or someone's got an issue with Fabinho again, or someone's got an issue somewhere else. And I'm sure someone is worthy of some sort of criticism. But at this point, I'm bored of the same things being said. And you know what? As a Liverpool fan base, you're moaning, your issues, the problems that you brought up and the way that you've brought them up hasn't changed anything. Nor's my way, of course, although I do think in many ways Liverpool look more progressive. Liverpool do look better than they did at the start of the season, and I can see where they're going. So, this moaning, listening to people who don't watch the full games, listening to people who watch Arsenal and think Liverpool should be competing with Arsenal and Man City, or listening to people who just want to throw daggers, isn't analysis. It's just the same old, hey, we found something that we can evaluate, and if we evaluate it in a terrible way, we'll get clicks, we'll get views with all these things. Like I said, the old Liverpool is dead. There's no more Mane, Salah, Firmino. There's no more Hendo, Fabinho, Thiago, or Hendo, Fabinho, Gini. That's not a bad thing. This team is in rebuild. This team is in transition. And frankly, there's a lot of things this team look tired of. But I'm bored of also hearing, if an old thing is dead, therefore there is no new life, or there is no new thing. Klopp is responsible for this. Klopp has Liverpool fans' faith, and to undermine that by saying that Klopp should be leaving, or Klopp shouldn't have this faith, or that he has identified yet more trends in football that he is trying to move towards with Liverpool, is disingenuous. To say that FSG haven't given him the money, or that FSG haven't given him the transfer he needs, may be explorable. But at the same time, hey, he took the job, he kept the job. And at the start of the season, he didn't need to say that his midfield was X, Y, Z kind of strong. So, I get it. Like, one of the games in hand over that top four is now gone. Especially on a day when Chelsea get pumped, Spurs have to come back, and Newcastle look great. Let me know what you guys thought of the performance in the comments below. I think there are a lot of people who deserved good evaluation. Nunez, I think, looks positive. But here's my final thing. I know the XG is going to be high from all these locations they've taken the shots and the headers and those kind of things. Too often at the moment, Liverpool are putting it in the centre of the goal, and they're not putting it to one corner or the other. They're not putting it in an unsavable position. Meslier didn't make all that many good saves this evening. Maybe one from Nunez, and even then that was in the centre of the goal. Liverpool need to generate better chances, more clear-cut, good chances, rather than relying on this chaos that happens, or rather trying to create this chaos that happens in the second or third phase of play. Having said that, I think Liverpool should have scored more this evening, and probably, again, in the same way with Nottingham Forest, should have put it beyond Leeds before Leeds go down the other end and do what they do. Because sure, there are vulnerabilities, but you feel a whole lot less vulnerable when you're 2 or 3-1 up. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. I'd be interested to know what your comments are. I'm still feeling pretty positive, if I'm honest. I've just got faith, and it's not even blind faith. It's actually just that I see some things that are changing at Liverpool. Give them time. Chat to you guys in a little while. Much love. Bye.